how to stop feeling like a disappointment. You know that emotion we get deep down inside when we know we disappointed somebody? Like family, friends, co-workers, but most importantly, significant others. Let's jump into it. Roll it. Welcome back to another video where today we're exploring this whole feeling of disappointment. Specifically from somebody who emailed me saying, why do I always feel like a disappointment to others? If this is your first time here, my name is Nikos Rentas. This is mentorsapproach.com. If you like what you see, hit a subscribe at the end of the video as we launch more videos each and every day to help you get moving in the right direction. This feeling of disappointment that we get inside of us when we disappoint others, it's a very negative feeling. In fact, it causes havoc in our head and it becomes a real problematic self-conscious issue as we get older. If you want to contest this, well, just ask any son or daughter who's grown up with a mother that guilt tripped them a little bit too much. Fathers do it too, but usually it's the mother's job. You know my mom's gonna watch this, she's gonna kill me, right? This emotion is really a guilt trip that comes upon us, and we actually guilt trip ourselves into creating this emotion. You may ask, well, Nico, that doesn't make any sense, but yes, it does. Guilt trips are self-punishing mechanisms created so that we can repeat the scenario in our minds over and over, re-punishing ourselves. To put this into perspective, everybody feels this. There isn't one person that hasn't felt this emotion. Now you may ask, well, Nico, I know people that never get this feeling. They never feel like they disappointed anybody. Yes, these people exist, but when they were younger, they did feel it. It's just empathy never kept building with them. So when they got older, they stopped feeling this thing called empathy. There's no love there, and all of a sudden, this emotion, it doesn't come up as much. A good example are the coach calls I have with people who are dealing with narcissists, and they're like, how can this person not see how disappointed I was in them, and how do they not feel disappointed in themselves for doing what they did? And there's no empathy. That's how simple it is. They don't care. They don't have that emotion in their head because there's no love inside. If we understand what people are going through when they use this guilt trip mechanism and what we do to internalize it, we get a more clear understanding of what's occurring. The first question we must ask ourselves is, why is it that some people will cause us to have this emotion pop up very, very bright while others won't? Why is it that the difference between one parent and another parent will have a different result in that level? They're all living in the same family, same environment. The fact is that it's all based on how they see disappointment. It's all based on how they react to disappointment. It's based on their own personal growth. Now this comes from fear. It's a fear-based emotion. When people project this, it's coming through their fear side, and they are able to really manipulate the situation so it doesn't occur again. That is the real goal. Now when we look at it from a perspective of how we react to their reaction on the original disappointment, so we don't have this feeling of disappointment in others, well, now we can really understand how we can grow through this learning moment and then allow ourselves to be in a better place in future reactions that bring up disappointments. Firstly, we need to look at the reality of life. This is the simple truth of life. Accept that you can't make everybody happy. I know you've heard it before, and it's the truth of life. We can't make everybody happy. People will be disappointed because everybody has different expectations. As we are going through our growth stages in life, we learn this. Sadly though, because we're influenced by our parents and fear-based love on what's going to happen in the future, we don't learn these lessons the very important ones until we get out of school, we're working somewhere, we're in real relationships, and we get smacked in the face by this thing called life experience. By accepting that you're not responsible for other people's happiness, it opens you up to a world of possibilities that will make you happy first, so that then you can help other people become happy down the road if it's possible. I get emails all the time from people, and this is one of the biggest areas of self-hate, self-loathe, and self-resentment in their lives that's causing them to not get to that next stage in their happiness level in their life. It's always based on trying to make others happy, make others show their happiness for what they're doing and impress them and make them proud for them, as if it's going to bring more love to the equation of that relationship. To really put this into perspective, let's look at what occurs when people get disappointed. People get disappointed because of promises being made. And when promises are made, expectations are created. And once an expectation is created, well, that opportunity for that moment where you disappoint just skyrockets. Now, I'm not going to jump into all the different scenarios of what people promise and what they expect, but looking at some small examples, such as your parents' expectation of what you should do with your life, your parents' need and want for you to do something that they believe you should be doing because, simply put, you're not smart enough to make that decision. Or if it's friends telling you they need something that you know you can't provide, but you still promise to do and overexert yourself to go do and take the chance on it just so you can impress and build that relationship on a level of a tangible. Or it's a personal relationship where you keep giving and the person has these expectations of who you should be when clearly you're not. And again, there are many cases like this, and they all result to the same thing. We overpromise. And once we overpromise, this expectation is born. And once the expectation is born, you better live up to the promise or this will occur. The disappointment will be great, and they will make sure you know it. They will tell you how disappointed they are. And the level of growth they've experienced will be that reaction you get. And the level of guilt you're going to carry of this disappointment, well, it's going to be equal to that reaction. So the next question we should be asking is, how many times do you overpromise and how many times do you not deliver? And as this keeps occurring with certain individuals in your life, what is the growth that is occurring with you? What are you learning? Whenever you're about to make any kind of decision that is on the premise of any of one of these scenarios, we have to ask ourselves, does it align with our integrity? Does it align with our values? Is this really what I should be doing? Is this good for me? Once we are able to make decisions based on integrity, based on our values, we are now working towards that life purpose we have. We're working towards that direction we need to be moving in our life. By doing this, we're not making decisions based on emotions, but rather on logic, on what fits our narrative. And as long as we do that, well, it's easier to be able to say no. It's easy to say, no, I cannot do that because I need to do this, this, and this. It's easier to say, no, I will not feel this guilt trip coming on from you. I will not feel like I am responsible for your happiness. I will not feel ashamed for having to stick to my integrity. The results will be tremendous if you start working with the integrity behind every decision whenever you're dealing with any one individual. I did this to myself, and this is something I had to work on. It took years to get out of it. Because in my mindset, I was the yes man. I can achieve everything. I still struggle with it. I still work on it each and every day. When we look at the grand scheme of things, the question always begs, are we doing something based on our values? Are we doing it based on our emotion for whatever end result we're looking for? And I can tell you, more often than not, all situations that come up where I am discussing somebody's problems and we're trying to come up with what is the best options for them so they can move forward in their life, it's usually because they made a decision on emotions, not on their integrity. And if people are involved, you're not just battling your own mental stability on whatever situation it was, but you're also battling that guilt trip, that negative chatter that's coming in from that individual that became very disappointed in you. In the next few videos, we'll talk more on specific individual situations that I think we all experience. And we'll talk about how the narrative changes in our mind as we start using integrity to get moving in that right direction. Don't forget to hit a like and hit a subscribe, and of course, leave a comment below on that moment you had a realization like this. Did you work on yourself to keep going, or are you watching this video because you tried stuff and you thought it was working, but then you kind of gave up?